riding his motorcycle in San Francisco? When was Alan riding his motorcycle?
It was 5 o'clock.
Well, at 5 o'clock, right? At 5 o'clock, Alan was riding his motorcycle. Was Alan riding his car?
No,
Or was
Alan was
Alan
riding his motorcycle.
Of course, Alan was riding his motorcycle. Where was Alan riding his motorcycle?
In San Francisco.
In San Francisco.
Alan was riding his motorcycle in San Francisco.
In San Francisco. When was he riding?
It was 5 o'clock.
At 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, Alan was riding his motorcycle in San Francisco. He was riding down Van Ness Street and came to a stoplight. Who was riding down Van Ness Street?
Alan. Alan was riding down Van Ness Street.
Alan was riding down Van Ness Street. What was he riding on?
He was riding on his motorcycle.
He was riding on his motorcycle. Was he riding down Market Street?
No, Van Ness Street.
No.
Alan was riding down Van Ness Street.
He wasn't riding down Market Street. Was he riding down Lombard Street?
No, he wasn't.
No.
He was riding down Van Ness Street.
Lombard Street. He was riding down Van Ness Street. When? When was he riding down Van Ness Street?
It was 5 o'clock.
At 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, he was riding down Van Ness Street. Who was riding down Van Ness Street?
Alan.
5 o'clock.
Alan was riding down Van Ness Street at 5 o'clock.
Alan was riding down Van Ness Street at 5 o'clock. Was he in a truck?
No, in his motorcycle.
He wasn't in a truck. He was on his motorcycle. And he came to a stoplight. Did Alan come to a go light?
No, he didn't.
No.
He
didn't
came to
come
a stoplight.
Go light.
Not
He came
a go light.
to a stoplight. We never say go light. We only say stoplight. Who came to a stoplight?
Alan. Alan came to a stoplight.
Alan, of course. Alan came to a stoplight. What was he on when he came to a stoplight?
He was on his motorcycle when he came to a stoplight.
He was on a motorcycle when he came to a stoplight. Where was the stoplight?
The stoplight was on Van Ness Street.
The stoplight
In San Francisco.
was on Van Ness Street. Was the stoplight on Embarcadero Street?
No.
Was
The stoplight was on Van Ness Street.
Van Ness Street. Van Ness, of course, Van Ness. The stoplight was on Van Ness Street. Who was at the stoplight?
Alan's was
Alan
on the
was
stoplight.
at the stoplight. Which city was Alan in?
Alan was in San Francisco.
Of course. Alan was in San Francisco.
In.
Where is Van Ness?
Van Ness Street
Well, Van Ness Street
in San Francisco.
is
Was
in
in
San Francisco.
San
Of course,
Francisco.
Van Ness Street is in San Francisco. Is Van Ness Street in New York?
No.
Is
Van Ness
Ness
was
Street
in San Francisco.
in San Francisco? Well, of course, Van Ness Street is in San Francisco. Where was Alan riding?
Alan was riding in San
He was riding
Francisco.
on Van Ness Street in San Francisco. And he came to a stoplight. A red Ferrari pulled up next to him. Did the red Ferrari pull up behind him?
No. A red Ferrari
No,
pulled
no,
up
not
next to
behind
him.
The red Ferrari pulled up next to him. What pulled up next to Alan?
A red Ferrari. A red Ferrari
A red Ferrari.
pulled up next to him.
A red Ferrari pulled up next to Alan.
Next to Alan. Next to him.
Did Alan pull up next to a red
No,
Ferrari?
no. A red Ferrari pulled up next to him.
No.
Alan
didn't
was
pull
not
up next
pulled
to
up
a red Ferrari.
next to
A
a red
red
Ferrari.
pulled up next to him.
Didn't.
Where did the red Ferrari pull up next to Alan? At a stoplight on Van Ness Street. At a stoplight on Van Ness Street, a red Ferrari pulled up next to Alan. Was Alan in a red Ferrari?
No. Alan was
No.
in
Alan
his
wasn't in a red
motorcycle.
Ferrari. He was on a motorcycle.
On a motorcycle.
Alan was on a motorcycle. What did the red Ferrari do?
The red Ferrari pulled up next to Alan.
It pulled up next to Alan. The red Ferrari pulled up next to Alan. The driver was wearing dark sunglasses. So, Alan was wearing dark sunglasses.
No. The
No,
driver
not Alan.
on
Alan
a
wasn't
red Ferrari
wearing dark sunglasses.
was wearing dark sunglasses.
Who was wearing dark sunglasses?
The driver
The driver
in
of the
a
Ferrari.
red Ferrari.
The driver of the Ferrari was wearing dark sunglasses, not Alan. The driver looked over at Alan. Did the driver look behind Alan? No. He looked over at Alan. Who looked over at Alan?
The driver
The driver
of
the
the
Ferrari
Ferrari.
looked over at Alan. Did Alan look over at the driver?
No. Alan
Yes, he did.
looks at
Alan also looked over at the driver. Who was the driver?
The driver
Tom Cruise.
was Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise was the driver. Alan looked over at the driver and realized that the driver was
Tom Cruise.
Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
Who was the driver of the Ferrari?
Tom Cruise. The driver of the
Tom
Ferrari
Cruise
was Tom
the
Cruise.
driver of the Ferrari. Who was the motorcycle rider?
Alan. Alan was the motorcycle
Alan
rider.
was the motorcycle rider. And Tom Cruise was the